So.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you want me to introduce you? Do you want me to say Candice Biondo? Is that what you go by right now?
I go by, well, you can say Liozu. It's okay.
Liozu?
Yeah.
Is that what you want? I can say
Yeah.
anything. I can say
I use
Candice
both.
Pumpernickel. I don't care.
Okay, let's do that then.
Candice Pumpernickel?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Candice
you can do Liozu. It's okay.
Liozu. Okay. And you're the head of Foster 360 out of
The program director, yeah.
program director out of Arizona, right? Cool.
Yep.
So what I'm going to give a little, radio host intro. Say I'm on with Candice Liozu, program director for Foster 360 out of Phoenix.
Mesa. Arizona.
Mesa. And I'm going to say, how are you? And then I'm going to say, tell us a little bit about Foster 360. And that's your 2 minutes to say whatever the heck you want to say about how awesome Foster 360 is. And then I know we mentioned before that we're going to talk about the idea of navigators and what that looks like and how that might look to other groups dealing with vulnerable populations, such as veterans. I have a lot of veterans that listen because that's most of who I know. So they're like, yeah, I'll listen to your show. And then I know we talked before about you being under the umbrella of Helen's Hope Chest.
Yep.
And then you're big into system, huh?
And Mesa United Way. So I have to say both. Mesa United Way.
Mesa United Way, Helen's Hope Chest. I'll let you describe all that stuff.
Yes.
And the idea of strategic partnerships and what that looks like. And then you were big onto systems, internal protocols, writing scripts, creating bandwidth, process is predictable. I'm sure you love that. Metrics actually measuring what it is that you do. How do you know if it works or not? Best practices and impact. And I think that will fill up a show. We can definitely talk about educate over sell, crockpot over Instapot. Oh, we already said processes.
I'm a crockpot person, sorry.
Yeah, crockpot, you got to let it simmer. You got to let them juices flow.
I agree.
You got to get that meat all tender.
I agree.
So good. So good. Cool. What do you think? You all ready? You loose? You good and stretched out?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
I'm ready.
Perfect. Hey, it's Travis Johnson, the nonprofit architect, helping you build a stronger nonprofit. Get a chance, jump on over to patreon.com/nonprofit architect. Throw in a couple bucks a month, help us stay on the air. I'm here today with Candice Liozu. She's the program director of Foster 360 out of Mason, Arizona. Candice, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Travis. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm all stretched out. I'm limber. I'm ready to go. I've got my water. We are set for another great podcast. Tell us about this. Tell us about this awesome program in Foster 360 that you run.
Yeah, so Foster 360 is a program that is dedicated to helping youth aging out of foster care build successful and fulfilling lives. And the reason we do that is because in Arizona alone, we have about 900 youth that age out every year. And out of these 900 youth, half of them end up homeless within the first 2 years of aging out, mainly because of, basically the lack of planning for, their lives. And what we found is that there is a resource and a service that will fulfill every need that they have. The problem is that they don't know about it. They have no idea of all the resources that are available out there, and nobody is there to help them coordinate. So when I say nobody, there are people but it is not their main activity. So if they're lucky, they're going to find someone that will know various resources and guide them, but it is not part of a process or a program that is dedicated to really helping them coordinate all these resources.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what we do. We basically navigate youth that get referred to us, and we help them based on their needs and based on their wishes. We help them find the resources that will support them in fulfilling these, these goals.
You know, I really love your vision and your mission. And when we talked before, I talked about my time as a foster kid in the 5 foster
Mm-hmm.
homes that I was in, and I was fortunate to end back up with, with my mom and then my grandmother before I ended up graduating high school. But I can't imagine what it would be like if I would have left the foster home. And fortunately for me, in Minnesota, I had really fantastic foster parents who had a vision, who cared, who were really there doing the right thing. But to have someone navigate you through the different things that are available, that's invaluable. And this really applies. This kind of concept of a navigator applies to any vulnerable population. We talked before about veterans and connecting veteran services. We've got a friend and a former guest on the show. I think episode 3, Brian Paul. He is the navigator in Oklahoma City at Veterans for Life USA. I've got friends down in Georgia, and they're running a great program called Positive Transitioning, helping coordinate different programs for cons that are being released back into the wild, so to speak, and helping them navigate through that stuff. And it's just a really, really important aspect. If someone's listening to this and they're trying to start a nonprofit or something that they're interested in, whatever city that they're in, and they realize there's already a bunch of different groups running around sort of doing this, but no one is doing that navigator role, that might be something to really look at. I love that vision and mission. And really, I know you're working on a model that kind of could be used on any vulnerable population. Isn't that what we mentioned before?
Yes, and indeed, that is really my bigger vision, and the legacy I would love to leave behind is to not just have a one-off kind of opportunity to help, but rather create a program that could be replicated as a model for any organization that serves vulnerable populations. It's something that is very, very important to me, and I feel like if we put the right effort in the right places, we can really create repeatable models. But the nonprofit world is a very different world from the rest of the world, and very often I am in it too. We find ourselves scrambling and being very reactive because we are you know exposed to situations that require immediate assistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to step back and take a look at a bigger picture and see, okay, while I'm doing this, what exactly do I want to create for the future?
That's fantastic. It doesn't have to be a one and done. College professors are kind of enticed to be published every few years, and they have these peer-reviewed journals, and these are designed. They're a huge pain for students. If you're a college student listening, I'm sorry, you have to write papers, and they suck. But they're out there, so the academic population at large can be on the same page with each other. They publish this stuff to share and to collaborate and coordinate. And a lot of times in the nonprofit world, there's a lot of organizations out there that are more worried about competition than collaboration. And if you listen to this show and this episode, and this is your first one, if you go back and listen through, this thread is throughout. There's enough to go around, as long as you're not trying to take from another organization. There's plenty of ways to work together. But you got started in a little bit different way. You have a program that you run, but it's not your own nonprofit. You're under the umbrella of someone else. And Do you recommend that method, and what does that look like for you?
Yes, very much so. I mean, I wouldn't be talking to you, and I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for the support of, the CEO of Mesa United Way, Mark Young, and the executive director of Helen's Hope Chest, Katie Pompey. They are the ones that. So I originally ran into Mark Young at an event, and he basically was giving a speech, and I was really, really inspired by his message. I could tell that he truly cared for the people that they were serving, and so I reached out to him, and I come from the for-profit world, so I had an idea. I was a little afraid that he would think that I'm a dreamer and laugh at me. But I still did it. I went to him and said, look, I have an idea of a model for youth at risk. At first, that was kind of the area I wanted to focus on, but youth aging out of foster care are in essence at risk, right? The statistics demonstrate that loudly. And I met with him and Katie Pompey and presented this plan to them and thought, I have nothing to lose here. The worst thing that could happen is them laughing at me and saying, Candice, you and your dream, go back to your for-profit world, bye-bye. And it's not what happened.
Well, it never is. I mean, but there's a lot of people out there scared to ask. Like, if you don't ask, it's already a no. It's already a
Well,
no if you don't ask. The only way to possibly get a yes is to say, hey, you want to jump in this crazy idea with me?
yeah, and you need to find the right people who are willing to listen as well, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I really had that feeling that Mark would be one of those people, and I was right in that assumption. And so so what you get by being under an umbrella of already existing organizations, and when you look at United Way, I mean, I don't want to speak for the worldwide United Way, but I would think that they operate quite similarly depending on what they do. But I look at them as incubators. Coming from the for-profit world, I look at these United Ways as being the opportunity for small nonprofits to come in and grow. So I benefit from all the administrative part. I don't need to hire administrative staff. I am able to write grants under Helen's Hope Chest, which is a gift, which very often larger grants are not given to brand new nonprofits. You have to show viability for at least 3 years. I mean, the foundations have different rules, but it is not a given that you can write any kind of grant from the get-go. I also have the possibility to benefit from their AmeriCorps program. So Mesa United Way has a very, very large AmeriCorps program. And I was given the opportunity to use AmeriCorps resources to be a part of my staff, which is how I started this program in the first place. I was the only person that was a full-time employee. So it is invaluable, the level of support that I have received and am still receiving from these two organizations.
Yeah, so often I talk to well-meaning individuals with a big heart and a big vision, and there's nothing at all wrong with that, but they can shortcut and sidestep a lot of the initial startup churn, the hassle, the part that really breaks people by partnering with somebody and being under their umbrella and working with them under their name. And you can start doing good things right away without having to do all the super hard parts. And the huge benefit about it is you have a program that's up and running and viable a lot quicker, and you're not creating all these other problems and all these concerns for yourself, and you really bypass a lot of the work. It's almost like the nonprofit easy button by partnering with other people.
And I would love to see more of that out there. I would love to see more nonprofit incubators that really provide the infrastructure for smaller nonprofit organizations to start the right way. Because what do you find if you don't do that? You find a lot of those grassroots organizations, which are great, they're doing amazing work, but they somehow the scalability stales at some point. It's becoming very difficult for them to scale. And it's unfortunate because they're doing a lot of great things in the community.
Well, I think part of that is really twofold. One, maybe threefold, but one, they have this initial board, whatever your board setup is, and oftentimes in there you might have a friend or two or a family member of two, and there's nothing wrong with that to get started. But eventually, you're going to need new ideas, new blood, new relationships to help really fuel you to that next level, and you're going to have to part ways with board members in order to really grow and get to that next level. And there's nothing wrong with this. There's standard verbiage in most people's bylaws that says board members will serve for this long. This person will be secretary, whatever, and they can't hold back-to-back years. They have to have a period off before they come back on. And that's no big deal, but you have to be willing to have that conversation with possibly a good friend or family member saying it's time for the next step. On the next part is, nonprofits are not gaining new information. They're not listening to great podcasts like, maybe the Nonprofit Architect. I don't know. Maybe that's one you've heard of. They're not in mastermind groups. And Candice and I talked about what a mastermind might look like. And, hold on to our show notes for that to see what a mastermind might look like. But getting in with different types of organizations and finding something that might work for you. We talked earlier about a platform, my.workplace.com, to allow free coordination between elements of a nonprofit. And I got that information by interviewing another guest that's going to be on in a few weeks. And I've already connected Candice and Lakia, and they're going to do great work, I have no doubt. But you have to be able to talk to people, in some other kind of discipline. But I know Candice for sure is from a business background, and she loves systems. And many new nonprofits don't think about systems, these internal controls or processes that ensure things get done right the first time, and every time after that. In the military, we call that thing a checklist. Mm-hmm. If I take out my checklist, well, I'm going to do the thing, and I check all the checks off the checklist, the thing is done properly, and I know that I haven't missed anything. But Candice loves that. What do you love so much about these internal protocols?
Well, it gives you predictability. A process allows you to keep your energy where things are unpredictable, right? Otherwise, you spin your wheels on the same things over and over again, and you do things differently, and there is no consistency. What drives me the most in developing processes is because across all of the navigators that we have, and I expect to have many more over time, I really want the quality of the services to be the same across the board. And there is no way I can achieve that goal without having the appropriate processes in place and giving people with the direction of how it is they need to work and what the expectations are. So you don't leave things, up for people's interpretations. And I will tell you, I ran into this week where, we implemented the process a couple of weeks ago, and it was already the second version of the process. And now I'm hearing from my team, well, this and this and this and this part of the process don't work. And, what I tell them, because, some of my navigators are, former teachers or not necessarily people that have a consulting background. I explain to them that that's why it's important to do a process, because you wouldn't know that it doesn't work unless it was documented somewhere.
That's right.
And once you document the process, you find the gaps, you find the flaws, and then you update it. So next week, I'm meeting with the team. We're going to be updating the process. It's going to be version 3. And I told them, expect another 3 versions, right? But once you go through that, process optimization phase, you really get to a point where you nail it down and you find that secret sauce, the magic formula that will allow you to create excellence in the field of, nonprofit and in whatever area that you serve. And to me, it's not just about having a navigator, see your youth and be nice to them. I mean, that's great. But what I want is our youth to find true value in the service we present. I really look at our youth as, $1 million client that I would serve back in the for-profit world, and being very attentive to the quality levels of the services that we provide.
This is very important, and you see this, and it was highlighted in the movie The Founder with the story of Ray Kroc, how he took what the McDonald's brothers had in the process they had in that one location, and how he had them write it down, and he had them codify the process, and this gets this, and this has to be here, and this has to be faster here. And they create this playbook, this standard operating procedure, this process that once you have this down, you can take and you can plant another location and another location and another location after that. And it's seamless as long as you actually, I don't know if you saw the movie or not, but there was people that were kind of doing their own thing. They got the playbook, they got the logo, they set it up, and some of them were selling corn dogs and tacos. And you had to go there with the iron fist and say, hey, you have to follow the playbook or I'm taking it away from you. And it's not that you have to want to expand in order to write a playbook. If you don't write the playbook, if you don't write the process, if you don't codify this thing, then if Candice, there's a chance sometime down the road that you might no longer be working for Foster 360. It's a reality, right? And when they bring in someone else, God forbid this, not too soon. I'm not trying to kick you out of your job. But
I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. But I hear what you say, because turnover is a real thing in our world, right?
Yeah. And it's not it could be the same as an executive director, but it could be your volunteer coordinator, or it could be that you lose, for whatever reason, 5 navigators a month over the next 3 months. Now you're down 15 people and you're training new people. And if you didn't have that process in place, if you didn't have that playbook, that blueprint, how do you know what they're teaching them? How do you know when they have attained the skills they need to do to be effective? How do you know that when they go out with a child in need or someone that is recently aged out, that they're going to get the services that your logo, that your brand, that your nonprofit is come to be recognized as? You have to be able to maintain that level of quality and consistency. And that's one of the things that is so good about chain restaurants. Even though it's a chain restaurant, I'm out here in Bahrain, and when I go to the Chili's out here and get the chips and queso, it is the exact chips and queso that I would expect. When I go out to Texas Roadhouse and get a steak out here, it is the exact steak, the exact recipe. And when I go to Five Guys, I get almost the same burger because of the bacon rule out here. But that's a different reason, right? But the burger itself, the bun itself, the fries are the exact same. And that kind of success is what allows you, that kind of consistency, whatever the thing is the thing that people come to rely on and expect. And when they can expect that of you, and as a foster kid, you don't have a lot of consistency. You don't have a lot of reliability. So when you have a wonderful navigator that is trained to the level that Candice is trying to bring that up to, you know that they care about you, and you have that single person touch point to walk you through the whole process. And that might be the only person you've had any kind of consistency with over time in your whole life, especially as a foster kid. So it's wonderful.
And you touched on something that is extremely important, and that has, I would say, little to do with the business side of the nonprofit, but we want to be a permanent relationship in these kids' lives, and that is part of our process as well. It's we don't want to look at it from a transactional standpoint and say, well, once you check those boxes off, we're going to let you go bye-bye. We're looking at building a strategic life plan for each of the youth that we serve. And every baby step is celebrated and recognized, but the way we train our navigators is by saying, well, you need to think a step ahead. Not in terms of making the decisions on behalf of the youth, because they've had enough people do that in their lives, but think a step ahead as far as what are the opportunities that we could introduce them to for them to create that vision.
Mm-hmm.
See, the same way I have a vision for this program, and whoever is involved in this program has a vision for it as well. We want to bring that vision back to the youth that we serve and allow them to really have a dream that they can really follow.
Absolutely. And one of the side benefits for writing and creating a process and ensure you're doing the right thing is nonprofits are busy, super busy. And if you are starting up your nonprofit, you know that your time is valuable. But can
Mhm.
you imagine if you have a process in place and the process is refined, and that'll take some time, but it works, all of a sudden, every time you go to do this thing, you know exactly the steps you need to do, you know exactly how long it's going to take you. And what that does is it helps create extra time and extra bandwidth, and it helps keep your energy, because when you go to do the thing, it's easy. When you started driving, you weren't sure what you were looking at. Your eyes were all over the road. Your hands were all over the road. The car was all over the road. Everyone's terrified in the car. Everyone outside the car sees what kind of person you are. But once you do it a while and you understand the mechanism and you understand the process, driving is now super easy. It takes no time, almost no brain power, some less than others. But you have got that process down. Once you've got it down, it makes everything that much easier. And it's the same with a process at work. Once you get that, all right, I got to do 1, 2, 3, I got to make this call, I got to do 4, 5, 6, send the email, and that thing is done. But while you were figuring it out, that 15-minute process took you 4 hours to do. And the
No,
next time,
and
it's
that's
nuts.
exactly it. And I look at the first year. So I'm in year 2, right, of this program. And the first year, things went very fast, and I had these navigators that came in, and I was still figuring out what on earth I was setting myself up for here. I didn't quite know. And I was very candid with them. I said, I actually don't know what I'm doing right now, so bear with me. And I literally threw them in the lion's den, telling them to figure it out, while I, behind the scene, was able to see, okay, how is this working, right? So that's year 1. And then year 2, we brought in a new, batch of AmeriCorps resources. And there we had a 5-day-long training with materials. They all got a binder, with tutorials and documentation. And, the people that had stayed along, and one of them is a full-time staff with us. We sat back after that training and we said, wow, we have come a long way. So I think that even from an internal culture standpoint, being able to show your employees that you are continuously improving, and that you listen to their feedback, and that you are really working hard to make their lives as easy as possible in a world that will never be easy, right? I think it goes a long way with even, employee retention. How fun is it to be working for an organization that listens to what you have to say, and that applies, changes to their protocols based on your feedback? How fun is it to know that, right now things that aren't really working well will be working well because we will be making the adjustments necessary? And how inspiring is it to know that if you stick around, you're going to be a part of this big organization that you really helped build, right?
It's amazing, because you have this impact, you have this buy-in, you have this feeling of accomplishment. And I think the word we're trying to boil this down to is valued. Who is at their corporate job punching a time clock that really feels valued, that feels like they're creating impact?
Mm-hmm.
It's not many. I'm in the Navy and I'm serving, I'm doing good stuff. But the Navy is a gigantic organization with tons of red tape and multi-million and multi-billion-dollar pieces of equipment. But there is a ton of processes to make sure everything is
Mm-hmm.
on the same page. There is a ton, a ton, a ton a ton of training that we do all the time, and all that training that we do, every time something comes up that's a bump in the road, we identify, we're like, oh, this is weird. Have you seen this? Hey, have you seen this? All right, best guess, here we go. And you go on through it, and you get through it, and you collect lessons learned, and you figure out how to tweak the process and go better for next time. The military does this, EMTs do this, paramedics do this, police do this, fire do this. Why not your volunteers? Why not your team of navigators? And especially when you're young, especially when you're small and developing, and I'm going to brag on Brian Paul again, his veteran organization, when they are doing the volunteer work, he has a different volunteer lead the session every time. He's giving them that ownership that is part of them. It's not Candice's organization, it's the team's organization. And
Absolutely.
that buy-in is what you need. And when you feel heard and valued, and you're helping to build this thing as a team, everything is better.
And I think, Travis, I think a lot has to do with mindset and background, right? There are various layers in nonprofits. There is the small nonprofit that was created by someone who had a dream, you know, who wants to make some impact. They may not have the background to create, you know, employee retention, to create processes, to really run it like a business. It might just not be there. Then you have, you know, the mid-size organizations that have a mix maybe of both. And then you have the large, you know, organizations that really run like corporations. And in between there is more, right? But I think that we could use more regulation in this space to allow for nonprofits that have those systems in place to really grow and prosper and make impact. The nonprofit sector is a space where there is a lot of duplication of efforts. A lot. A lot, right? And this is all happening on, you know, with taxpayer money, right? And so I think that there is an opportunity for all of us to think things through internally. But, you know, when you think about processes and optimization, I think collaboration comes right in with that. You know, you can have the best, right? And so now expanding that with other partnering organizations and working in such a way that is efficient for the people we serve, I believe, you know, again, can be a place that, you know, we can grow from and create even more impact. And so that's at Foster 360, that's what we do. So while, you know, we have navigators out there, you know, serving the youth, I work a lot with these organizations in our community and offer visions of partnerships. And it doesn't always work. I'll be very honest with you. Not everybody wants to play in the same sandbox, and it's okay, but some do. And some are really excited by that perspective.
It is wonderful. It like a little context. When I go to do video for like my Facebook group and try to give value, I suck. I am not good on the camera, talking to the camera, reading to a script by myself. It's not where I excel at, and that's fine. Where I really do well, personally, as far as I can tell, I don't know. No one ever tells me anything. Maybe I suck at it. I don't know. But I really do well, and I get a lot of energy, and I really enjoy interviewing guests and talking to people and building on stuff. And like, oh, remember when we talked about this? I love that. That's really kind of my area. So when you're out, not you, when my listeners are out and they're trying to build this nonprofit thing and they're doing it by themselves, it's lonely and it sucks. Find a way. You can connect with me. You can connect with Candice. I'm sure she'd love to talk to anybody. Figure out how you can partner. And even if you get 20 minutes once a week with a friend or someone at whatever level that you can bounce ideas off of or vent to a little bit, or like, did you hear what my volunteer did? Or, and it's not a gossip thing. It's a coordination thing. It's a brotherhood. It's a sisterhood. It's a fraternity. It is a way to build partnerships and do this thing with someone else, because look, I can't do it alone. I've seen myself alone. I suck when I'm alone. I do. My wife's back in the States. I'm so much better when she's around. I'm so much better when I'm on camera with someone else, as opposed to just being by myself. Some people like the solitude, and that's fine. And some people do great work alone, but figure out what it is for you. If you're in a partnership or in a group and it's not working, maybe you need to be alone. But if you're alone and you hate it, connect with somebody, engage with somebody, find an online community. We have a group, a nonprofit architect group. Find me on Facebook, click the thing, and it'll take you right to my group, and engage. Does you no good to be in a group if you don't engage. But if you are feeling this way, reach out to someone. It doesn't have to be. Maybe you're like, Travis, look, I really don't appreciate the way you did business. I don't care. Find someone that you do connect with, that does make sense for you, that vibes in whatever way that you vibe, and grow with them.
I agree, and I would say, if the goal for you, anybody out there, is to really create a legacy and grow, right? It's imperative. It's imperative to connect with others. The time you're going to save, I see that. I mean, I'm having a call with a lady in Texas next week. We're doing our own mini mastermind once a month. We're talking. She's in a different space than what I do, but the technicality, the operations of a nonprofit are the same. You build a board, you create metrics, you try to figure out what kind of things can you turn into tangible impact, because there is a lot of intangible especially when you provide services. How do you track it? This is the same. And being able to talk to someone and really being able to share the gifts is absolutely invaluable.
It's important. And the other thing you must know, especially if you're new, I'm totally stealing Candice's quote. It's a crock pot. It is not an Instapot. It is. It isn't. You come home, you throw it in the rice cooker, you go dust your face off, and you check your email, and it's done. It is. You've got this thing set on low. It's simmering all day while you're at work. It's the juices are flowing, the meat's getting tender, and you're going to have something, after you get back from the gym in the evening. It is a slow process, but it is a process, and especially early, it's going to take a lot of time. Candice, what can my community, what can my team, what can my listeners do to help impact you and your cause?
Well, that's a good question. Other than a $10 million check, I think connection is very important. I would love to have other fellow nonprofit leaders reach out and create a community to be able to exchange best practices. I am by far not, at least I don't consider myself at all as a seasoned nonprofit leader. I am still new to the game. It's been only a little over, no, it's actually been 2 years only. And I still have a lot to learn and a lot to offer through my background. And I'm sure that other people out there are in the same situation. And so what if what I need to learn another person has? And what I have to offer, another person needs to learn. And I think that creating that community would be amazing. Exchanging best practices, tips. We all suffer through the same struggles, fundraising, right? We have these missions, we do these great things, but yet it comes down to the money. Right? If I had the money by now, we would have a community of tiny homes that would house our kids. But instead, what I do is I still house them in motels, right? Because I'm waiting for that amazing opportunity and talking to the right people at the right time. We're all on the same boat. And so how about we start exchanging ways to fast track these and be able to truly create amazing impact. There are so many people who need our help.
Absolutely. If you're listening to this, Candice wants connection, whether it's connection with you or connection that you have to offer, reach out to Candice. Her contact information is going to be in the show notes. I've absolutely loved having Candice on today, and I hope we get to talk again soon. But if you like the show and you like what you heard, and you like what you listened to, don't keep it a secret. Share in your social media. Give me a shout out on social media. Tag me. Say, Travis Johnson, I think your podcast is amazing. Or Travis, I can't believe you're always so down on yourself on your show. You really got to pick it up. Whatever the thing is, I'm happy either way because I'm just happy when people engage. Mm-hmm. Until next time, thank you so much, Candice, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Travis.
And that's a show right there.
That's awesome.
Nice. How you feeling?
Good.
You're pumped up, ready to go, huh? Write some new processes? Oh, I want to say something about metrics, but oh well, you mentioned it.
What did you say? What do you have to say about metrics?
I was going to say, what kind of things do you track? Metrics. What kind of things do you measure?
Impact.
How do you measure impact?
So I have two different metrics that I'm tracking right now. So when you look at the role of a navigator, okay, the number one thing we do, besides creating relationships with and trust with the youth, is we make connections, right? So we connect youth to organization A, B, C based on their needs. If they need housing, we're going to connect them with an organization that provides housing, etc.
Right.
So it is important that we track how many connections we make, okay? Because it can be very easy to just get into a mentoring relationship with these kids, where all you do is basically go and have, a drink, a Coke, or go to McDonald's. At the end of the day, I want our youth to be connected with the community, right?
Yeah, it's not a big brother, big sister program.
It is not.
And it is not.
Repeating it, we're not a mentoring program. But there are mentoring aspects to what we do because you have to build that relationship, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's one thing we track. And then the second thing we track is an impact. So an impact is a successful connection, right? We may connect a youth with an organization that helps you find a job. The connection in and of itself is a success, right? But it's just a connection. Now, if as the result of that connection, the youth finds a job, how amazing is that?
Yeah.
Now, if as a result of that connection, the youth finds a job and now has the possibility to pay rent, that's what we call a secondary impact. Because what we're showing is that through one impact, you create N secondary impact. This one youth that I had, we helped him find housing in a transition home. And we paid the first 2 months program fees for him on his behalf so that he could get back on his feet. Next thing I know, he finds a job in about 2 weeks. Okay, so that's as a result of getting safe housing, he was able to secure employment on his own. So that's a secondary impact. Next thing I know, he's driving a car, right? Next thing I know, he's thinking about going back to college. And so one impact can have a ripple effect on various other impacts. And that is what I show in my numbers. And mind you, I'm not there yet. I'm not where I want to be when it comes to metrics. But again, you start somewhere. You start somewhere and then, you keep going.
It's a lot easier to steer the car when you're actually moving. You actually have to start.
That's the thing. You just have to start. And so, if I were to show I don't know me, the Bill Gates Foundation, my metrics, they may laugh at me right now, right? And say, well, what are you doing really? You know, but that if you don't measure yourself, you don't know how good you are or how bad. You may think you're good and you're terrible. You may think you're horrible and you end up being amazing, right? So it's just a way for you as a leader to really take the pulse on your organization and understand, you know, how you're doing. And
Well, yeah, but it's also one of those things that when a donor asks, and it's very hard to really quantify how a navigator will impact the life of a person, unless you have something that you track. So you say, we made contact with this many individuals, we made these connections on their behalf, and that led to this, and that led to this, and this many jobs, and this many went back. And you can say those things, but if you've never tracked it, if you've never captured that metric in however you store it, then it's so hard to use that with a donor to show them this is the impact we are having. It's really hard to create a presentation to a room full of donors if you can't tell them the impact that you're having, and you can't tell them the impact you're having unless you track the metrics.
yes, absolutely. And you know, you have geez, I was going to say something that I thought was important. It will come back.
It's the best part about recording this, because we're still recording. I'm going to tell my guy, hey, after we said we're done, we weren't done. Take that clip, throw it in a show.
Yeah, okay, great. No, but because that's really important. It's an important aspect to be able to really continuously verify and tangibly. So this is what I was going to say. So we live in a world of instant gratification. So when you go on the news, you're going to see a news report, especially like the local channels. They're going to show you a news report of an organization distributing 10,000 teddy bears to children, to orphans, and the children have these big smiles, okay? Same thing with the backpacks for back to school. You're going to see a little report on that. People love that because there is an instant gratification moment where you see that giving something to someone created a moment of joy. And I am not denying the need of such programs. They're amazing. You need moments of joy, right?
Absolutely.
But what we do takes time. We don't navigate in a week. The kids, they look at us and they say, well, you're one more person that's going to abandon me. Why would I trust you? And we need to go through great lengths to win their trust. And that can
build that relationship.
Build that relationship.
Yeah.
And that's why I said there is a mentoring component to it, but this is not what we do. But we use mentoring as a way to really build the foundation to create an amazing relationship. And then we navigate. And the navigation in and of itself takes a while because guess what? There is a big elephant in the room, and it's called trauma. Trauma makes you do things that we judge as being bad, but they're just very natural things that happen when your brain is traumatized. And so we need to find people, and funders in particular, that understand that this is a longer term type of program, but that will create long lasting impact.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's when I picture you, and I know we talked about educating donors, how do you frame that conversation with them? I'm picturing in my head that you ask the room who went to college, you have them raise their hand. Mm-hmm. And then keep your hands up if you had a really good counselor that walked you through the process. Mm-hmm. And everyone put your hands down. Raise your hand if you had a terrible counselor try to fumble his way through the process, or now no counselor at all. Wouldn't it be amazing if there was a group that could navigate and take you to find the right resource that you needed beyond just a counselor at one school or one program that was familiar with multiple programs? How much easier, how much further along might you be if you had the right navigator in those scenarios? Now think about how lost you felt, how frustrated you felt with the process, and imagine this is the chance to give that kind of navigation for someone that's never had anyone they can trust before, that's always abandoned them and never had a relationship. That's what we're doing here. That's what we're delivering. We're giving that hold your hand accountability. Let me show you the way.
So, yes, if I were in front of a group of donors, here is what I would tell them. And that would be specific to my area in my geographic location. But I think you can, unfortunately, you probably can apply it to many others. You know, when I started this program, I didn't start right away with navigation. I told my management, I told our CEO that I could not start right away because I need to verify that I'm right in my assumptions. I need to make sure that we really fill a gap and not duplicate something that's already existing. And within a month or two of meeting everybody I could think of in the space that serves, you know, the population that we serve, youth aging out, of foster care, I sat back and I thought, well, hold on. So there are hundreds of organizations helping that population. I kid you not.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they still ending up homeless? And anybody with some level of intelligence and you know, logic will say, yeah, right. Why? Mm-hmm. And that's how I believe that, you know, funders can be convinced. It's, you know, something isn't working in the way we're doing it right now, and this is the missing link. But guess what? That missing link is going to be a longer term process, because again, you can't resolve a traumatized brain in a month.
No.
The kids we serve went through hell and back. They saw things and experienced things that no human should experience. You can't just come in their lives and say, well, I'm going to save you. That's not how it works, because many times they believed they would be saved and were disappointed. So now they have this barrier.
Right.
And I don't know how that relates to you having been in foster care, Travis, but that's what we see over and over again.
I gotta say, I probably have the best, well, I can't say the best, but a wonderful foster care experience. I had more stability in the foster care system than I did at home.
Well, and okay, so let us say something very important here. We always talk about a broken system. Okay, personally, I am a very big, you know, advocate of our Department of Child Safety. Is everything perfect? No, but at the end of the day, they are really working very hard to bring safety to the children who are not safe. And there are amazing success stories out there with children that had wonderful foster families. I think we have a broken society. That's what is broken, more than even the system. Okay. And but kids fall through the cracks. That's just the way it is. You know, talk about processes. How do you create a process, to the letter process, that leads a caseworker to make a decision to disrupt a child from their family? Every situation is so different.
Yeah.
You can't have a process around that, right? So you will have things or people that fall through the cracks.
Yeah. Those are all very important points. I don't have a whole lot of time left because it's after 9 over here. But I did want to say, we had mentioned before, I don't know if you were still interested in having me speak to the foster kids.
Yes. So let me reopen real quick because I closed everything because I'm getting notifications.
Yes.
So give me a second. Because I'm thinking, I mentioned you to our workshop coordinator. And our February workshop is on Saturday the 15th. If you want to write down.
Let me, I'm going to grab my phone. Okay. Yeah, let me grab my phone. It's got the calendar on it. One sec here. It's on the charger. Instant James. Okay, so you have Saturday the 15th is it the same time that we started?
So it's at it starts at 10 a.m. Yes, the same time as we just started today.
Okay. I've got a guy sitting there. I think I've canceled on him twice.
Well, let's look at March. So
Okay.
the next one is March 21st.
March 21st. I have March 21st open. I know that the F1 Grand Prix series is going to be here in Bahrain, but I can go Friday to that, go to the race. I think that'd be really cool. I'm not an F1 fan, but I mean, when do you get a chance to go to an F1 race? Never.
And I'm a big fan of F1. So.
Oh, are you? Do you have a favorite driver? Who should I cheer for?
No, so I'm a fan just because I love it, and my brother is in that space. And I went to a historic race in Belgium, loved it, but I never take the time to watch the races.
Ah,
But I want to drive one of those babies.
So you can.
I would love to. I want to.
There's
but I need a license for that.
There's places that you can do this. So in Vegas, they have a supercar track, and you can go rent a supercar. And then out here in the Middle East, in Abu Dhabi, there's Ferrari World, and you can go rent an F3 car, and race it around the track at like 180 miles an hour.
That is awesome.
Yeah, right?
That's what I want to do.
Oh, there's also like a Dodge Viper kind of club in the US, and they go to different tracks and they have track days. Mm-hmm. And if you find the right person, you might be able to ride with them in the Viper whipping around the track.
That's awesome.
Right? So you said March 21st?
Yeah, and so for you, we're talking about a tops 30 minutes thing. So we would get you, okay, on the Zoom, and then you would start talking. And what I'm thinking is probably more at 10:30 because they never come there on time. So
really?
It's chaotic. I mean, it's chaotic. But you know what? The way I look at it is all we need is one person to be inspired by what you said. They're going to be watching their phones while you talk. I mean, it's going to be, you're not going to feel valued. But each time then there is always one that comes and says, "Oh, thank you for bringing this person."
Have you had a former foster kid come and talk?
So who did that? I had a former homeless kid. Mm-hmm. I had a former foster kid. And then I had a guy who was burned from head to toe. And
Bobby Henlon?
No, his name is I forgot his name, seriously. And I know him well. I had a friend who did drink and driving, and he ended up in a wheelchair. That's a dear friend of mine. So yeah. And now, you want to speak to the challenges, right? You want to speak to the challenges. I mean, so you mentioned that you had an amazing experience, and that's great, but you need to know that the kids that come to our workshops, they're kids in group homes whose experiences were not great.
So what I think I'm going to do it's always interesting. What I try to do is I try to tell a little pre-story, just a little anecdote, and then I'm gonna tell them a huge chunk of my horror stories, just the most horrific things. It's kind of called the Epiphany story or the Epiphany Bridge story. Are you familiar with this concept?
So one thing we want to be sure of is we can't be graphic in any way because that is re-traumatizing them.
Got you. So I've survived 2 murder attempts.
Mm-hmm.
One was my mom tried to smother me with a pillow. She was fully mounted over me, and one was my sister chasing me around with a knife.
Mm-hmm.
I can mention the headlines of those that I just said. I can just say that I had 2 family members try to kill me.
That's what I would leave it at. It's so
Okay.
re-traumatization. Yeah.
No, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. The goal is for them to focus on the good. Uh, so I have a little story that I tell about privilege. It's really quick, and I lead them in. I give them some highlights of where I kind of am, and then I go into the beginning, and I talk about this is move number 49, 12 schools, 5 foster homes, 2 murder attempts, and some jail time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found the thing that worked for me, and for me it was the Navy.
Well, there you go. So that's exactly. So that's the kind of highlight. So just to tell you, like we had one guy be very graphic around his burns and stuff, and I thought that since it wasn't abuse, one girl had a seizure. They get
Yeah.
so triggered. They get so triggered. A lot of them are. It's still very vivid.
Mm-hmm.
So very, just make them understand that you experience some really deep stuff.
Yeah.
At a very high level, and then the jail time I think is important because it's if you feel comfortable talking about what led you there, again without being graphic, but like
Well, so
choice
I'm
here.
gonna tell you real quick. I'm gonna turn the recording off.